My cousin became addicted to health supplements during her pregnancy. Not only did she take them as meals, she also used them instead of breast milk and formula. I could not bear to see a child suffer, so I insisted that my nephew eat normally and grow up healthily. When my nephew grew up, whenever he had a headache or a fever, my cousin would come over and say, "Oh, if your aunt hadn't stopped your mother from giving you health supplements, you wouldn't have to take injections or medicine for this minor illness. It's your aunt who harmed you." Gradually, my nephew began to resent me for ruining his strong body, so he deliberately mixed the food I was allergic to into my lunch. I fell to the ground in pain, looking at him in disbelief, while my nephew said with a look of satisfaction, "You deserve it." When I woke up again, I was back to the time when my cousin was pregnant. On this day, I smiled and said perfunctorily, "My cousin knows these things better than me. How can he harm himself and the child?" Sia, you are studying this and you have a lot of knowledge. Tell my cousin, are the health products I bought all nutrients? My cousin's voice rang in my ears, and I came back to my senses abruptly, gasping for breath as if I had just left the holiday. Seeing this, my cousin at the side smiled and said, "Oh, I scared you. How could this child be distracted while chatting? I am asking you a question." I looked at the familiar scene in front of me and finally confirmed that I was reborn. To be precise, I was reborn when my cousin was pregnant. It was also at this time in my previous life. During my cousin Chun Yumin's pregnancy, she entered the circle of health products based on the recommendation of her good sister. Then, on this day, she took relatives and friends to introduce. He proudly told everyone about his healthcare products, which can be used as food and medicine. He doesn't even need to eat now, and taking healthcare products is enough. The relatives and elders around him felt that it was not appropriate, and advised her not to take all kinds of medicine while pregnant, and to eat well, otherwise it would be bad for her and the child. Chun Yumi was instantly unhappy when she heard this and retorted, "What do you know? These healthcare products are scientifically formulated, and they are full of nutritious substances, which can supplement more than ordinary meals. Sia is a college student, she must know more than you. If you don't believe me, let Sia come and see." In the last life, I didn't understand the hidden meaning of my cousin. Upholding the principle of respecting science, I told her that she should still have a normal diet and healthcare. Foods cannot be taken as regular meals or medicines. I studied food safety, and I also know that the health products on the market do not add high-end and high-quality nutritional supplements to health products. In order to maximize the profits of these products, these health product manufacturers need to ensure that they will not kill people. This condition is sufficient. In fact, for ordinary people like us who are in good health, as long as we eat 3 meals a day normally and the nutrition is fully met, there is no need to use health products for additional excessive supplements. On the contrary, it is like my cousin who does not eat normally during pregnancy and relies solely on health products, which is most likely to cause malnutrition. Even worse, it may cause the child in his belly to have congenital diseases. Chun Yumin was not here with me, and I heard him after getting the answer she wanted. She muttered a few words, "You don't understand anything," and left with a cold face. After the child was born, under the persuasion of relatives, friends, and her cousin's husband's family, her cousin gave up under pressure and replaced normal diet with health products. My nephew grew up healthily, but I didn't expect that the well-intentioned reminder at the time was the beginning of my nightmare, which eventually dragged me into the abyss of death. Whenever my nephew encountered difficulties, setbacks, or unsatisfactory things, Chun Yumin would push the responsibility on me. My nephew couldn't concentrate on his studies and was in a bad mood, but he didn't ask his nephew to concentrate and play less games. He said, "Son, your childhood was a critical time for brain development, and Mom wanted I want to give you some nutritional supplements, but your aunt won't let you, otherwise you wouldn't have such a tired waist when studying. My nephew is fat and often gets sick, and he can't find a girlfriend. He doesn't ask his nephew to lose weight, eat less and exercise more. He said, son, if your aunt hadn't forbade you to take health supplements, your body would definitely be the healthiest. You can have a healthy and strong body without doing anything." My nephew finally learned about my evil deeds from his mother's nagging day after day. So a seed of hatred was quietly buried deep in his heart. He hated my nephew and accidentally found out that I was allergic to peanuts, so without my knowledge, he quietly mixed the peanut powder that was enough to kill me into my during lunch. Chun Yumin and her husband soon arrived. They destroyed all traces of the nephew's visit, and only said to the outside world that I had eaten peanuts by mistake and died of an allergy. My poor parents cried their hearts out at the funeral, and Chun Yumin pretended to comfort them. My parents told Chun Yumin over and over again that it was impossible for me to have eaten peanuts by mistake, and that I had always been the most careful. How could Chun Yumin not know? It was obviously him who told his son about my peanut allergy. I looked at my parents, who desperately told people around them that there was something strange about my death, but they didn't know that the murderer who killed their daughter was standing in front of them. My father and mother also had their own newspapers, but the final result was that there was insufficient evidence and they could not determine that I died from him. To my surprise, Chun Yumin arranged a ghost marriage with my body without my parents' knowledge. With the money, she not only paid off the huge foreign debts owed by Chun Yumin due to health products and pyramid schemes, but also immigrated abroad with her husband and son. After learning about all this, my father was so angry that he had a cerebral infarction and was paralyzed in bed. My mother was also hit and suffered from severe depression. My family was completely torn apart by Chun Yuman's family. I came to my senses, looked at Chun Yuman's hopeful eyes and smiled faintly. Sister, you have bought these health products for some time. If they are not good, you can keep buying them. Moreover, sister also said that these health products are licensed. When my relatives and friends around me saw me speak, they no longer tried to persuade me. Seeing this, Chun Yuman nodded at me with satisfaction. Look at me and say that college students still wear glasses. Even if you don't believe me, these licenses can't be fake. I lowered my head and covered up the hatred in my heart while drinking water. This time I will never let you have the opportunity to hurt me and my family. I want to see if you and your magical health products can pave a smooth road for your son. A few months later, my nephew was born, but the doctor said that the child was malnourished in the womb. If he is not well fed the day after tomorrow, he may develop a serious illness. Chun Yuman was furious after hearing this. How could my son be malnourished? I used health products every day when I was pregnant. Isn't your hospital? Do you want me to spend more money to buy your medicine? Seeing this, the doctor accompanying me shook his head helplessly and left the ward. On the other side, Chun Yuman was still not satisfied. She stood at the door of the ward with her hands on her hips, and continued to ask the doctor who had already walked away, "Why did you leave? Are you feeling guilty?" I knew that doctors like you who have no medical ethics dared to curse my baby son. Just wait for me to report you and make you pay for it. My cousin's husband, Wang Chuan, was very dissatisfied with my cousins throwing a tantrum in the hospital. He felt that he had lost face, but on the other hand, he thought that if my cousin made a fuss, the hospital might compromise, and he could get some medical expenses back then. So he just let Chun Yuman make a fuss, and he hid in the bathroom next to him, pretending not to know my cousin. It was a perfect invisibility. My cousin's husband Wang Chuan looked honest on the surface, but in fact he was extremely selfish and only cared about his own interests. If in the previous life the beginning of my misfortune was my cousin Chun Yuman, and my death was caused by my nephew Wang Jipeng, then the disaster of my family afterwards was caused by Wang Chuan behind the scenes. Because in the previous life, it was this cousin's husband Wang Chuan who proposed to use the betrothal gifts obtained from the ghost marriage to fill the huge debt owed by Chun Yuman. Afterwards, when he saw my parents, who were still struggling to investigate the truth of my death, he simply went all out and pretended to accidentally reveal to them that my cousin used me in the ghost marriage to pay off the debt. In order to bury the truth, this scumbag actually tried to anger to death this couple who were usually kind to them. The loving old man, I suppressed the hatred in my eyes, pretended not to see him, and walked straight to my cousin's ward. My cousin's aunt was busy comforting her. At this time she turned around and saw me coming. Her eyes lit up as if she saw a savior. My aunt hurried over, took my hand and walked into the ward. "Zia, why don't you come into the house? Look, we are so busy here that we didn't even notice you coming." I was not in a hurry to talk to him. My aunt's diligence at this moment was nothing more than trying to use blood and family morality to kidnap me, and borrow my kindness to make me make selfless contributions to their family. Alas, my aunt is old, and your sister Yumming has a bad temper, and there is your brother-in-law, not to mention, uncle my mother's side, and secretly observed my attitude. You and your sister Yumming are both children of the Chan family. You have been close since childhood. From now on, the one your nephew can rely on is you, his aunt. I pulled my hand back unnoticeably and said, "Aunt, look at what you said. I am a college student. How can I take better care of the child than his biological parents?" When my cousin was pregnant, she used health products to supplement her nutrition in various ways. Be careful, nephew. You are still worried with your cousin taking care of you. Seeing that I was not fooled, my aunt changed the way she said and began to hint to me. It's not that I am worried, but we as adults always want to take better care of children, right? You are the first college student in our family. I still think that food safety is important, uncle. My mother just wants to ask you, what kind of milk powder do you think we should buy for the child? I sneered in my heart. If I hadn't been reborn, I would never have thought that in these seemingly ordinary greetings and inquiries, there were hidden calculations one after another. He didn't come to ask me which milk powder is good. In his words, he just wanted me to spend money to buy it for his precious grandson. He has used such tricks in his previous life. I was used as a gun by him more than once. In fact, I initially spoke out to stop my cousin from being too superstitious about health products because my aunt cried in front of me every day and asked me to persuade my cousin not to be stubborn. Now when I think about it, I just feel that I was stupid and ridiculous at that time. She is my cousin's biological mother, but she made me, a cousin. My younger sister advised her daughter that if her own mother would not listen to her, then how much persuasive power could a cousin like me have? The purpose of her doing this was nothing more than to make me take the lead and become the bad guy, so that cousin Chong could stay away from the abyss of healthcare product pyramid selling. Their family was happy and harmonious, and Chong would not destroy the relationship between mother and daughter. Not only that, after I left, he knew that my parents were both sick because of their anger at his daughter and son-in-law, but he still found the two elders regardless of any feelings and persuaded them to let his good grandson inherit all the inheritance I left behind. He was not unaware that the murderer was his grandson. My eldest aunt not only watched the misfortune of our family with cold eyes, but also wanted to take the few properties I left behind for herself. I had always been. This family worked hard until they died, but the money in their account was only a little over 50,000 yuan. They exhausted my entire life. It was not enough to destroy my life. They also wanted to suck away the last bit of my bone marrow. What a selfish and ugly face. They are really not a family. I pretended to be distressed and spoke slowly. You can't be careless about the milk powder for your child. The milk powder on the market is similar and all qualified. Imported milk powder is expensive, but the nutritional content is also similar. When I said this, my aunt was delighted. Her eyes clearly said, "Tell me quickly which milk powder is good. I can blackmail you morally and ask you to buy it for my grandson." I added quickly while he was not born yet, "But I heard Sister Yumming say 2 days ago, their manufacturer's new healthcare products are mainly nutritious and can be eaten by pregnant women and babies. The nutritional content is more than milk powder." Hearing this, the aunt's face fell instantly. How can this be possible? Children have to drink milk powder. Before I could say anything, Chun Yuman on the side stood up dissatisfied and said, "Why not? Those of mine are more nutritious. Rich ladies in big cities say that this is better than breastfeeding. You just don't believe it. Now you ask Gusia, since a college student said it was good, are you done? I am the child's biological mother. How can I harm him?" Seeing that her wishful thinking had failed, the aunt glared at Chun Yuman unwillingly, and then sat aside to look after the child. Chun Yuman and I chatted for a while, and it seemed that the time was almost up. I also got up and prepared to leave. When I went out, I happened to meet my cousin's husband Wang Chuan, who had been pretending to get hot water for the whole morning. I smiled and nodded at him, and without waiting for his response, I quickly left the hospital. Now that my nephew has been born, the murderers who caused my family to be destroyed in the previous life have all arrived, and the good show is about to begin. Because my cousin has never breastfed the child, she has been using the healthcare products she stockpiled to make milk powder for the child all day long. As a result, just after the full month, the child began to have a high fever due to weak immunity. In the early morning, I was awakened by a burst of urgent phone calls. I turned on the phone and saw that it was my aunt. Under the destruction of the noisy ringtone, I decisively chose to mute it. The ringtone stopped abruptly, and I continued to immerse myself in a beautiful dream. The next morning, I pretended to have just seen it and called back. The aunt on the other end seemed to have been disturbed by me, and her tone was quite unfriendly. "Who is it? You calling so early in the morning?" "It's me, aunt. I slept too soundly yesterday and didn't answer your call. Did something happen?" Before I finished speaking, the dissatisfied voice of the aunt came from the other end of the phone. "What are you talking about? We couldn't find you yesterday. Did you know that your nephew had a high fever last night and was vomiting and having diarrhea? How scary." I pretended to be worried. "How could this happen? How is he now? Have you been to the hospital?" The aunt snorted coldly and said he was well a long time ago. "Fortunately, your sister Yumming usually feeds you nutritious health products. Our Jiping drank a bowl of medicine and the fever went away immediately. There is no need to go to the hospital and spend that money." After listening to him, my heart, she sneered. It was the first time I had seen someone so complacent after giving such a young child such powerful antibiotics. If I had answered the phone yesterday, the old woman would have persuaded me overtly or covertly, saying that I should take the child to the hospital for treatment, or at least go to the pharmacy to buy medicine. Then my possessed cousin would have yelled at me, asking me not to harm her child, and that the doctors in the hospital would only curse her precious son. Then my eldest aunt would have played the role of a good person, persuading my cousin to listen to me and take the child to the hospital, and finally said that since his aunt suggested going to the hospital, then let the aunt pay for the child's medical expenses. This kind of nonsense was a good idea, and he took me as a sucker. This time his plan failed. Seeing that I didn't say a word, the person on the other end of the phone was very surprised. Aunt became even more excited. "You slept soundly, but we were so exhausted last night. Humph, we don't need you now, but you have time to call back." I was shocked by the shameless remarks of my eldest aunt. Their child is sick. Could it be that they need me, a cousin's aunt, to take care of him? A few days later, my cousin's family came to my house with my nephew who had just recovered from the illness, saying that the child had recovered and came out to see relatives to get some popularity. My parents were not on guard against them and warmly entertained the whole family. At first, Chun Yuman pretended to ask my mother for parenting knowledge, but before she had pretended for 2 minutes, she started to talk about the health products she sold. Chun Yuman smiled and held the phone in front of my parents. "Uncle and Aunt, look how good our Jiping is. Health products. Only those who have tried this product know whether it is good or not." My aunt also chimed in, "Isn't it? Since our Jiping has used this health product, we have saved money on milk powder. He had a fever yesterday, and the fever went down after taking a bag of medicine. Compared with those children who usually have to receive intravenous drips for several days, he is much better. This is all thanks to the nutrition that corn usually gives him." My mother was also surprised. "Oh, it's so amazing. Seeing my mother's response, Chun Yumin immediately took advantage of the victory and attacked. There is also an aunt with cancer in our team. She eats our product. Guess what? Our product is usually used for healthcare and can save lives at critical moments. My mother was stunned and her eyes widened. This must cost a lot of money. Chun Yimi waved her hand. Hey, I can still cheat, my dear aunt. If you want to buy it, I will give you a discount. 15 boxes for 2,299 yuan. My mother hesitated when she heard the price. My aunt also came over at this time. Seeing that my aunt thought it was too expensive, my mother smiled awkwardly and said to her aunt, "Don't worry about this. You spent more than 2,000 yuan on the product on the surface, but you can actually make a profit. As long as you buy our 2,299 products, you will be an agent. You sell at cost price and all the money you make will belong to you." Chun Yumin also takes advantage of every opportunity. As long as you share it with relatives and friends, you can also upgrade to a senior agent with points, and the money you earn in the future will be several times the 2,299. I couldn't help laughing when I heard this. It's really the end of the year, and it's time to rush for performance. I guess we have to fool other relatives. Chun Yumin and the others stayed with the children for a while, and then found an excuse to leave. After closing the door, I turned to my mother and said seriously, "Mom, when your aunt and the others talk about asking you to be a health product agent, you must not agree. I suspect this is a Ponzi scheme." My mother looked confused. "Daughter, what is a Ponzi scheme?" I felt it was pretty good just now. It's both health promoting and profitable. I sneered. That's why I said it was a scam. If this product can really cure cancer, they would have won the Nobel Prize long ago, and there would be no cancer patients in the world. Mom, you must not be brainwashed. This is a pyramid scheme, it's illegal. When my father heard this, he hurried over to persuade us not to touch pyramid schemes. I saw on the news that pyramid schemes had ruined families. Suddenly my father cried out and realized later if it's a pyramid scheme, then your aunt and her family are also involved, this won't work. We have to tell them, we can't let them get deeper and deeper into trouble. I shook my head. I'm afraid it's embarrassing to see my aunt's family. They must have been brainwashed. It's useless for you to persuade them. My mother also had a worried look on her face. Your aunt is also our real relative. We can't just watch them die. The general manager has no choice. After all, these are also parents. They haven't seen through the true colors of my aunt and cousin's family. They still have blood ties in their hearts. When they go back to persuade them, they will know that this family is hopeless. The next day, I was discussing the content of the group project with my classmates via video, and I heard the sound of the door opening. I looked in the direction of the sound and saw that my mother's face was extremely ugly. I quickly put down my phone and walked over. After asking, I found out that my parents had good intentions to persuade my aunt's family, but they didn't buy it, and they also accused my parents of being unable to stand him. We didn't want them to live a good life, which made my parents very angry. Seeing this, I hurriedly comforted them. They didn't appreciate it and we couldn't force it. In the future we should go out less because it was a pyramid scheme. My parents nodded repeatedly after hearing this. Now my heart was finally at ease. After this experience, my parents decisively drew a line with my aunt's family, and that family never came back. So when my cousin contacted me again, I was a little surprised. At that time I had just bought a house in the city and was going to live with my parents. Chun Yumin brought his son who had just entered junior high school. At that time, Chun Yumin's son had just entered junior high school not long ago. But because he had not eaten for a long time and only relied on the health supplements his mother gave him, the 10-year-old child looked like an underdeveloped bean sprout. The skinny Chun Yumin pushed Wang Jiping and said, "What did I tell you at home? Call someone. It's your aunt calling someone." Wang Jiping lowered his head and said nothing. Chun Yumin was furious and hit him on the head with her hand. Then she smiled at me ingratiatingly and said, "I spoiled the child so much that he has no manners." I smiled and asked, "Why is he like this? Why is he a grown-up child? If you don't want to call me, then don't call me. Anyway, I haven't called you for so many years. Sister, just say it directly." Chun Yumin laughed awkwardly and said, "It's not a big deal. Didn't you buy a house in the city? Your nephew will be transferred to the city in a while. See if you can let him live with you." I looked at him steadily and said nothing. Seeing that I didn't say anything, Chun Yumin spoke again. "How about this? We will exchange houses with you. You see, although your house is newly bought, but the house in my hometown is big, so you won't suffer any loss. No one comes to me for no reason. He has set his eyes on my newly bought house and wants me to raise his child." In his previous life, Wang Jiping thought the high school environment here was not good. I felt sorry for the child, so I took him to my side and begged him to enter the city high school. At that time he was spoiled by his mother, so I controlled his diet, urged him to exercise and supervised his studies. However, my discipline made this spoiled nephew hate me completely. I sat on the sofa and asked casually, "Hasn't it just been a short time since the school started? Why are you in a hurry to change schools?" When I mentioned this, Chun Yumin immediately became energetic. He glared and raised his eyebrows. It makes me angry when I talk about this. Sia, you don't know, children nowadays, especially girls, they are so cunning. Not only did she seduce our Jipeng, but she also turned around and accused Jipeng of harassing her. How could our Jipeng like her? Why doesn't he take a piss and look at himself? In fact, I have heard about what he said for a while. It was such a big deal and it caused a lot of uproar at the time. It is hard not to know about it. It is different from what my cousin Chen Yiming said. The truth of the matter is that Wang Jipeng is thin and a little autistic, so his classmates don't get along with him very much. There are also some naughty ones who tease and bully him from time to time. Then his deskmate, the girl Chen Yiming mentioned, couldn't stand it anymore, and helped him out from time to time and talked to him. Not only that, she also took the initiative to ask the teacher to help Wang Jipeng study. As time went by, Wang Jipeng fell in love with this girl. He had fallen in love with a kind and pretty girl. However, after he was rejected by the girl when he confessed his love to her, he began to harass and pester her endlessly. When the teacher and the girl's parents came, he turned around and accused the girl of seducing him, which made the girl cry. Chen Yuman was even funnier. He said shamelessly that if the girl didn't want to seduce his son, why did she always talk to his son and take the initiative to help his son with his studies? It happened that he was selling health products and developing new agents at that time. In short, he was doing very well. Chen Yuman relied on his fame in the local area and made a lot of trouble. In the end, he forced the girl to change classes. Poor girl, his kindness was rewarded with a huge shadow. After this incident, Wang Jipeng was completely isolated by the whole class. Wang Jipeng, who couldn't stay in the class, he cried and made a fuss about transferring to another school, but his incident made a big fuss. No school around was willing to accept such a student, especially Chen Yuman, who was notoriously unreasonable in the area. In the end, Chen Yuman set her sights on a school in the city for transfer. Not long ago, her family heard that I was going to bring my parents to live in a new house in the city. When Chen Yuman saw that I disagreed, she turned around and acted pitifully towards my parents, saying, "Uncle and aunt, you see, our Jipeng will be corrupted if he goes to those schools with bad environments. I think the schools in the city are good, so I want Jipeng to go to live with his aunt Sia. My sister doesn't want to take care of the child, so we are willing to exchange the big house in our hometown with her, and the mud house in the countryside for my newly bought house in the city. You are so calculating, I think even Zhou Baopi would call you grandmaster. Don't, after thinking about it, it's impossible. First of all, I'm busy with work and have no time to take care of your son. It's impossible for you to let Jipeng live with me. Secondly, give up the idea of changing houses. You have the nerve to say that I am not at a disadvantage. That broken house is not warm in winter and not cool in summer. When it rains hard outside and light inside. I bought the house for my parents to live in a good house. You love your son and I love my parents too. So I won't agree to change houses. After all, you make a lot of money from healthcare products. Since you have money, why don't you let Jipeng live with me? If you love your child and want to accompany him to study, why don't you buy a house in the city? At worst, you can rent one. Or are you reluctant to spend your money? You are staring at my house." Her thoughts were exposed. Chen Yuman was angry and dragged Wang Jipeng away, cursing. Later, Wang Jipeng went to a school in the city because Chen Yuman bought a house. He obviously had the ability, but he still wanted to take advantage of others. He was so greedy that I didn't know if his stomach would burst. Time passed in a flash. During this period, I got a promotion and a raise. Without the burden of my cousin's family, my career developed very well. From time to time, I could take my parents on a trip. The only flaw was that my parents would occasionally urge me to get married, but I always evaded them with the reason that my career was on the rise. After living a new life, my desire for career and money was unprecedentedly high. I think this may be because in my past life, I always gave up the two in order to support my cousin's family, so in my heart now, apart from my parents, career and wealth are the most important to me. One day my parents knocked on my bedroom door, with a look of wanting to say something but stopping. My heart skipped a beat, thinking they were not going to introduce me to a blind date again. Mom handed the phone to me. "Daughter, look, isn't this health product sold by your sister?" I took a look and found out that it was the health product sold by my cousin. It was revealed that it was suspected of pyramid selling. The manufacturer took the money and ran away. The public security organs are arresting them. Mom stroked her chest. I felt scared for a while. Fortunately, you and your father persuaded me at that time. Otherwise we would not only be cheated of money, but also might go to jail. Your cousin made a lot of money at that time. Would she be caught? I shook my head and said that I didn't know about such things. Yesterday when I was shopping, I accidentally met my cousin's husband Wang Chuan. At this moment a young girl was holding his hand. The two of them were shopping in the mall affectionately. Wang Chuan's face was full of pride and pampering, and there was no trace of the honesty he showed in front of my cousin. I followed them quietly and listened to Wang Chuan talking to him. Wang Chuan was showing off to his girlfriend how he secretly transferred his wife's property to his own name, and repeatedly promised that he would divorce and marry her after a while, which made his girlfriend very happy. Suddenly Wang Chuan's phone rang. He used the excuse of going to the toilet and hid in the stairwell of the shopping mall. I followed him and said, "Wife, didn't I tell you not to contact me during this period?" If I am also targeted, our family will have no one who can make money. I have to make money as soon as possible to pay off the debt. What are you afraid of? When you borrowed the loan shark, I asked you to fill in your cousin's address, just for today. It's okay. If he makes a fuss, it can just hold these people back. Let's move secretly and no one will know. Don't go out. They all know you. Hearing this, I broke out in a cold sweat. I felt like I was falling into an ice cellar. I ran home like crazy. At this time, my cell phone rang. I answered the call and heard my mother's frightened sobs. She told me not to go home now. Amid my mother's sobs, I could vaguely hear the sound of banging on the door and shouting. In the taxi, I forced myself to calm down. I called the police in the car first, and then opened my cousin's circle of friends. I found the circle of friends that my cousin had taken 3 years ago, when she was about my nephew's high school enrollment. In the photo, a skinny and short boy looked listless, standing in front of the school gate that said, T-City 3rd Senior High School. I saved the photo and edited a line of words in the blank space next to it. Nephew, come on. Then I set the picture as my screensaver. When I got home, the group of people were still smashing my door. Fortunately, there were neighbors hiding nearby to help, so I secretly called the police. I walked up to them and shouted, Who are you and why are you smashing my door? The leader turned around and said, Let's find Chun Yuman. He owes us money. There is no Chun Yuman. You found the wrong place. The leader glanced at me and said, It's none of my business. The address he gave is here. I don't care about Chun Yuman or Lu Yuman. I just want money. I'm afraid of scaring the parents at the door, so I softened my voice. Brother, there are many elderly people living here. Can we have a good discussion? As the old saying goes, every debt has its creditor. How can we, ordinary people, afford to pay back the money? I think you are a reasonable person. You are angry. In fact, you can see that we have been cheated by Chen Yiming. Besides, you see we have made such a big fuss. The police will be here soon. Let's be friendly and don't let them arrest us because of this. Not long after, the police came and took us back to the police station after a brief understanding. My parents were worried and wanted to go with us, but I stopped them and asked them to wait for me at home. In the mediation room, I cheerfully said that it was all misunderstandings and we could just talk it out privately. The leader saw that I wanted to help and spoke a little uncomfortably. Sister, I'm sorry for what happened just now. I looked at his eldest brother. I know that anyone who encounters the problem of not paying back the money will get angry. Before I finished speaking, the phone popped up with a message. Information, the screensaver appeared in front of everyone. The leader asked me tentatively, This is your nephew, Chanyu, your son? I sighed. No, the child just finished the college entrance examination and encountered this. The day after tomorrow he will go to school to apply for admission. Poor thing, the leader thought. Go back to school the day after tomorrow. I put away my phone, said a few more polite words to the eldest brother, then got up and left, walked out of the mediation room. I raised a sneer at the corner of my mouth and then left. Without looking back during the mediation process, I also learned the whole story. It turned out that my cousin claimed that her health products replaced medicine which can cure cancer, so some people believed it and bought health products from him to give to their old father who had cancer. As a result, the treatment was delayed, causing the old man to miss the best time for treatment and die. The old man's family members were not happy about it and demanded compensation. Otherwise, they would sue my cousin. In desperation, my cousin's husband asked my cousin to borrow usury. Sure enough, the debt collector followed Wang Jiping home and found Chun Yuman's new residence. During the dispute, the two sides pushed Wang Jiping down the stairs. After checking in the hospital, they found that the external injuries on Wang Jiping's body were not serious. The fatal one was due to long-term malnutrition and improper diet. He has contracted leukemia, and all his organs are failing to varying degrees. Chun Yuman sat on the ground in despair, but the only thing he could do now was to hide his condition from his son. However, misfortunes never come alone. Wang Chuan chose to abandon his wife and children at this moment, and filed for divorce on the pretext that Chun Yuman was suspected of pyramid selling. Chun Yuman was also investigated, but later her aunt surrendered herself and took all the charges. I heard that Chun Yuman knelt at the door of his mother and cried for a whole night, saying that Jiping's illness could not be separated from her care. What would you say? He is a direct relative. If he goes to jail, Jiping's life will be ruined. He begged his aunt to turn herself in and take the blame for him. In the end, his aunt felt sorry for her daughter and grandson and nodded in agreement. But what Chun Yuman didn't expect was that Wang Jiping still knew about his illness. In order to pay the high medical expenses, the penniless Chun Yuman repeatedly went to Wang Chuan to ask for money. After all, Wang Chuan was Wang Jiping's father, so he agreed every time. However, this caused dissatisfaction among Wang Chuan's current wife. He took advantage of Chun Yuman's time to ask for money again, and ran to the hospital in front of Wang Jiping. Wang Jiping said that he would not live long and asked him not to waste Wang Chuan's money. Before he could finish, Chun Yuman rushed into the ward and pulled it out like crazy. Chun Yuman hugged Wang Jiping and cried with tears streaming down her face. She did not notice his resentful eyes at all. When I went to visit Wang Jiping, he had just woken up from a coma. The doctor said that he was conscious less and less. Wang Jiping sent Chun Yuman away, looked at me for a long time and slowly opened his mouth. Aunt, I had a dream. In the dream you stopped my mother and I was disciplined by you. Now I know that you treat me sincerely. I miss you. Okay, but I killed you. And please save me. I really know I was wrong. I was silent for a moment. Jiping, I don't know what you are talking about. Don't let your imagination run wild. It was just a dream. When I left, he suddenly struggled and fell off the bed. Aunt, you remember everything, right? You don't want to forgive us, you hate us, right? Aunt, Wang Jiping's voice was still echoing behind me, but I knew his apology was not a confession at all, and I didn't need to be soft-hearted. The next time I heard about their family was on the news. Wang Jiping was arrested. He made an excuse and directly confessed to the crime of pushing his own mother off a tall building. When my aunt in prison heard the bad news, her eyes rolled back and she fainted. When she woke up, she was crazy. It was a sunny afternoon. I came to the detention center to visit him alone. When Wang Jiping saw me, he was a little surprised. I told him calmly that Wang Chuan had a car accident yesterday and died this morning. He was stunned for a moment, then burst into laughter, and then started to cough violently. It's all retribution. Haha, Aunt, these are our retributions. I'm dying too. It's his retribution. Yes, watching the crazy Wang Jiping being taken away by the prison guards, my heart seemed to be liberated. An indescribable joy filled my body. I left the detention center, pushed open the door of a cake shop, and asked for a birthday cake. The girl who bought the cake wished me a happy birthday sweetly. I smiled and nodded to her and said happy birthday. Today is really a good day to be reborn. I walked towards the direction of home in the sunset. I carried the cake, thinking about my parents and the delicious dishes prepared today. I couldn't help but quicken my pace. The sunset behind me was dazzling red. Tomorrow must be a good day.